What's goody YTBC? What's good, fight fans? Boxing heads around the world. B Marsh with another boxing video. So I'm about to take y'all back to these fights we didn't get to see series, you know what I mean? And this particular fight I'm about to get into, this is a fight that we should have seen at lightweight, you know what I'm saying? 135 pounds. And actually, we had two different occasions where this fight could have happened, you know what I mean? And this is a fight between, at the time, WBC. Actually, depends on what year they should have fought. But this is a fight between Edwin Valero and Manny Pacquiao. You know what I mean? Now, this is a fight, man, that I wanted to see back in the G. Maybe, like I said, there was two times the fight should have happened, right? Um, 2008, I think about 2008. You see when the man Manny Pacquiao destroyed the man David Diaz, right? I believe that was 2008, right? That was 2008, right? Because that was the same year that the man Edwin Valero, I'm sorry, Manny Pacquiao also fought what's his name, the Golden Boy De La Hoya. Okay, so those was his two fights in 2008. You know what I mean? And this is a fight that could have also happened in 2010. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Let's get into it one time. You know what I mean? Edwin Valero at the time, I say in 2008, he was a WBA. What was he? I think a super featherweight champ, 130 WBA. You know what I'm saying? You know, Edwin Valero was a guy who finished his career 27-0 with 27 KOs. You know what I'm saying? Um, this guy was a guy who was knocking out everybody, you know what I'm saying? But he didn't get out too much American TV exposure because, the man couldn't get licenses to fight in certain states, you know what I mean? I know he couldn't fight in California and Nevada, you know what I'm saying? Las Vegas, Nevada, or in any city in California because he couldn't pass medical exams, you know what I mean? They said that the man had like a blood clot in his brain. And this was from a motorcycle accident, you know what I'm saying, that the man Edwin Valero happened to be in I believe like 2001, you know what I mean? Now you see this guy Edwin Valero was a guy, like I said, 27-0 with 27 KOs. This guy was basically like a cult figure, you know what I mean? You check it. At the time in 2008, this guy was a WBA featherweight champ, super featherweight champ, you know what I mean? He beat the guy named Vincent Mascaro, you know what I'm saying? Okay, he beat Vincent Mascaro. I believe he stopped him, I think, in the 10th round, you know what I mean? Now, this guy, Edwin Valero, you check it. So he's a champ in 2008, like I said, super featherweight champ. All right, and the other time this fight could have happened was in 2010, you know what I'm saying? 2010. And the man, Bob Arum, he wanted this fight, you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, not Bob Arum, excuse me. Freddie Roach, he wanted to fight for Manny Pacquiao, you know what I'm saying? You check it, but the man Bob Arum didn't look like he was quite keen on that fight, you know what I mean? Now you see this man Edwin Valero was also promoted by Top Rank, you know what I'm saying? He was a Top Rank fighter. And I believe he only fought once in the United States. And he could only get a license at this particular time before his untimely death. He could only get a license in Texas, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, this man Edwin Valero, man, this fight right here, like I said, was a fight I wanted to see. I had my views on the fight, and you'll find out my views on the fight before this vid ends. You know what I mean? Now let's see what Manny Pacquiao was doing in 2010, in 2008. Like I said, he fought David Diaz, and he punished him for that WBC lightweight title, right? Okay, and in 2010, that's when actually Valero died. He died in 2010, right? So Manny Pacquiao was looking for an opponent, and I remember Freddie Roach was being vocal about it, that they'd like to fight Edwin Valero, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think the man Bob Arum wanted to put his future predecessor, Manny Pacquiao, his future star. I don't think he wanted to put him in with Manny Pacquiao at the time. You know what I'm saying? Because this was a guy who was like I said, he was, if he got the exposure, he would have been a serious money maker for Bob Arum, just like Manny Pacquiao was. You know what I mean? And I don't think Manny Pacquiao was willing to risk that. Basically, like how Manny Pacquiao wasn't willing to put, I'm sorry, Bob Arum wasn't willing to put Manny Pacquiao in there with Floyd earlier. They had a lot of contract negotiation disputes, and basically how Bob Arum didn't want to put Floyd Mayweather in there with guys like Oscar De La Hoya. He avoided that fight for many years, and even how um, Bob Arum didn't want to put Manny Pacquiao in there. I'm sorry, Floyd in there with guys like Miguel Cotto. You know what I'm saying? You check it. Now this guy, Manny Pacquiao, 2010, I believe the end of 2009, 2009, he beat what you call it? Um, he beat he beat Manny. What's his name? Excuse me, man. I got a lot of distraction, phone calls coming in and whatnot. But he beat Miguel Cotto in 2009, right? And in early 2010, in between, that's when they was trying to fight this guy Edwin Valero. You know what I'm saying? You check it, but they put the fight. He actually got the Clottey fight. You know what I mean? He fought Joshua Clottey because they couldn't make that fight with Edwin Valero. You know what I'm saying? Where would they have the fight? You know what I mean? They were trying to actually have the fight in Texas. That was something that they had proposed because that was the only place Valero could fight at. You know what I mean? You check it. Now, in the United States, because he couldn't pass the brain scans, you know what I mean? All right. Now, this fight, like I said, man, this is a fight could have happened in 2010 or 2008, you know what I mean? But, some people might say, oh, Manny Pacquiao ducked Edwin Valero. You know how people always say some nut ass shit, you know what I mean? And the only reason I made this video is because a lot of people talk about all the people Floyd Mayweather ain't fight. You know what I'm saying? And look, there's numerous people that they don't mention Manny Pacquiao should have fought. Manny Pacquiao could have fought at the lower weights, guys like Paulie Ayala, Johnny Tapia, Mark Two Shop Johnson. You know what I'm saying? But he skipped them weights like bantamweight and all that. You know what I mean? You check it in super flyweight. You check it, Manny Pacquiao could have even fought guys like Paul Williams because that was his mandatory win for his WBO belt when he beat what's the guy for the Miguel Cotto for the WBO welterweight title. You know what I mean? You check it. There's numerous guys he could have fought. Zahir Rahim. These are guys Pacquiao could have fought. You know what I'm saying? You check. There's numerous guys. You know what I'm saying? But this particular vid, we about to get into it with Valero versus Manny Pacquiao. You know what I mean? And in 2008, when Manny Pacquiao, after he beat Diaz, he got the big money fight of his career. You check it. Who should he fight? The unknown commodity in Edwin Valero? Or should he fight Oscar De La Hoya for a big super fight and a major payday and a legacy fight, basically? And a lot of people going to say, yeah, and it's true that the man was drained, De La Hoya. But that's De La Hoya's fault. Why he take that fight? Why he agreed to go down to 147? You know what I'm saying? And don't front, yo. Them odds favored De La Hoya like a motherfucker. Nobody thought Pacquiao would have won that fight. You know what I'm saying? So in hindsight, you got to keep it 100. Nobody thought Pacquiao would win that fight. I knew he would. You know what I'm saying? Because that man looked like a skeleton. De La Hoya, you know what I mean? But everybody was talking about De La Hoya would kill this guy, you know what I mean? This little Filipino coming up in weight. All right, so let's get into the vid. So that's something I debunk right there. The man Manny Pacquiao went for the big money fight. You check it, and even at that time, this guy Valero wasn't even a lightweight. You know what I'm saying? He was still a champion at the WBA champ. At super featherweight. All right, let's get into it, this fight. What would happen in this fight, you know what I mean? And this fight, I truly believe Manny Pacquiao would probably demolish Edwin Valero, you know what I'm saying? I don't care what nobody says. Edwin Valero was a good fighter, but who did he fight, man? He fought a lot of obscure opponents, a lot of C-class fighters, a lot of guys we ain't know. Even look at that title fight he got against Vincent Mascaro, you know what I'm saying? This guy Mascaro even dropped the man, Edwin Valero, you know what I mean? He dropped him. You check it, and actually the man Edwin Valero struggled with that man up until he stopped him, you know what I mean, in the 10th round. You check it. Look at the fight with DeMarco, you know what I mean? The man got a serious gash on top of his head, you know. That was a brutal fight, a lot of blood in that fight. But you know, a guy like Edwin Valero, if that's the type of fights he fights, man, this man Manny Pacquiao, in my opinion, would have destroyed him at that particular time, you know what I mean? 2008, I mean, the guy hadn't fought quite anybody in Manny Pacquiao's caliber. You know what I'm saying? Look, the man Edwin Valero, in my opinion, uh, was he powerful? I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure because, his opponents, did he have power? I don't know because his opponents weren't A-class fighters. You know what I'm saying? These guys were guys he was supposed to get up out of there. You know what I mean? It's different when you're talking about like Manny Pacquiao stopping guys like De La Hoya or 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 even Miguel Cotto. Even Miguel Cotto, a lot of people didn't think Manny Pacquiao would win that fight. You know what I'm saying? It was at a catch weight, I believe, at what I think 145. You know what I mean? But still, you check it. The man Miguel Cotto agreed to the catch weight, and a lot of people had Miguel Cotto gonna win that fight. You know what I'm saying? You check it. Actually, that was one fight. I ain't gonna lie. I was kind of on the fence who's gonna win that fight. And when the man Manny Pacquiao dropped the man twice in the fight, I was actually surprised. You know what I mean? But at this point in time, Manny Pacquiao, I would say, was in his prime. You know what I mean? And Edwin Valero, like I said, is an unknown commodity. I think Edwin Valero's head movement was terrible. He didn't have no head movement, and I thought he was a wide puncher. You know what I'm saying? You check it, a guy who, he didn't have the I don't think he didn't have the power and speed of Manny Pacquiao, that's for sure. You know what I'm saying? And I think the man Manny Pacquiao was definitely a better fighter as far as beating up elite guys, fighting on the big stage. This guy Valero had been fighting in South America and also he fought in Japan. You know what I'm saying? You check it, but he was a wild, aggressive fighter. You know what I'm saying? And these are the type of opponents which are tailor made for Manny Pacquiao. We know this. We know this. You know what I mean? These are guys tailor made for Manny Pacquiao, you know what I'm saying? And believe me, man, I was a Valero fan, man. I wanted him to get them opportunities to fight Manny Pacquiao and all these guys, you know what I'm saying? Because, this was a star that we wanted to see on American TV, you know what I mean? I think this fight right here is when he fought DeMarco. I remember that. I think this was his last fight. This was his last fight ever in his life, you know what I mean? When he fought the man Antonio DeMarco, you know what I mean? Defending his WBC lightweight title, you know what I'm saying? You check it at this time. And actually in 2008, 2010, I got to give you guys this disclaimer. 2010, the man Manny Pacquiao was already fighting at 147. And Freddie Roach had said, man, we're not going to fight at nothing lower than 147. And maybe we might do 140 for Valero, you know what I mean? But at that particular time, he was fighting guys like Clottey and what's his name? Miguel Cotto, you know what I'm saying? You check it. And even later that year, he fought Margarito, you know what I'm saying? So he wasn't going backwards, going back to 135 and all them weight classes, you know what I'm saying? They wanted the man Valero to move up, you know what I mean? And that was something, I don't know if the man Valero had never fought at them weight classes before, you know what I'm saying? He never had. You check it, he never fought at no 140 or nothing like that. So that, of course, the advantage would go in Pacquiao's hands, you know what I'm saying? I think at any particular time when these two fighters were supposed to fight, these two warriors in Manny Pacquiao and Valero, I think Manny Pacquiao would have beaten him in every single time in 2008 or in 2010. 2008, right after the David Diaz fight, you check it, or in 2000, in 2010, right after the Clottey fight. I'm sorry, right after Miguel Cotto fight, you know what I mean? I think Edwin Valero was a talent, a guy who was probably destined for stardom up until he met the right opponent, you know what I'm saying, who might expose him, because the man, in my opinion, had numerous flaws. But hey, he was a great, exciting fighter, and that's what people like. And that's why I said this guy will be forever. He'll be a cult legend, you know what I mean? He'll be a guy, a what-if guy, you know what I'm saying? He's a guy we could just look back at old footage. He was a crazy guy. The man killed his wife, killed himself. A guy who was a vicious woman batterer. you know. But a lot of people don't talk about him. They mostly talk about him in high regard. But when they talk about Floyd Mayweather, who had a incident, you know, they talk about him in a negative connotation, you know what I mean? But that's my vid, yo. I think the man Manny Pacquiao would win this fight by knockout. 8th round knockout or stoppage. All right, B Marsh Boxing, let me know who you think gonna win. All right, peace.